A big part of my business is obviously audio description, as you know. Also e-learning, commercial work, all different, everything.
Cool. Very, very cool. And what we're going to talk about today, in particular, what we're going to field questions about today is the world of audio description.
Right.
Which is, and it's funny because we were talking this morning, it's not a new genre. It's been around for a very, very long time. Like you said, like definitely since the 80s, the genre of audio description has been around. But could you just like briefly describe it, or could you briefly describe audio description for everybody?
Audio description?
Could you describe it?
Yes. So audio description is really you're taking the visual basics of what someone is seeing through their eyes and putting it to words so that those low vision and blind audiences have the ability to see what we are seeing with our eyes through their ears, basically.
There you go. That's a good one. And that's a good description. And where do people hear audio description narration?
They hear it, of course, on television, new movies, television, those types of things. You're also going museums, anywhere where there might truly be anything that's described. But there's kind of a push with museums. There's a push in education. And then, of course, television, all the different streaming channels are having it now. All the cable channels not all the cable channels, but there are a lot of the cable channels have it, and it's just starting to grow more and more.
Isn't part of the reason it's starting to grow because there's a lot more of federal regulation requiring compliance issues requiring because I know there's a certain amount of, I know for Netflix, there's a certain amount of minimum amount of hours or minimum amount of shows that has to be. And I was telling you last week, I did an audio description audition, and it was for a federal government project, and a note in the casting notice was that all federal videos apparently have to have audio description to go along with it. Yeah. So like we said, it isn't a new genre,
it's not new.
I think as a result of this federal regulation, and also just people just, production companies just being more inclusive,
right?
Because, a person who is visually impaired has every right to enjoy a play, a television show, a movie, or a museum as much as any sighted person.
Yeah. And a lot of live events are starting to do that. Like, the Macy's Day Parade, for example, was audio described. The SAG Awards are audio described. The Emmy Awards audio described. Those types of events are also beginning to be described as well. And as you said, with inclusivity and accessibility and those types of things, the audio description is not at the level as closed captioning is, but that would be the hope eventually, is that, you are hoping that everyone who wants to tune into something has that ability to turn that on. And you're right. So what the federal law does is that there are, for example, a cable television show, let's just say Discovery. They might, their contract ran out, but I'm just using them as an example.
Sure.
What it is that there is a certain amount of hours per programming. So if you're having, this much programming, this percentage of it has to have audio description. So that is the idea. There's a percentage, and they'll let you know like how many hours need to be audio described. And those contracts sadly don't run forever. You might be under a 3-year contract, and then the government might say, no, you're going to continue on, or they might just say, okay, you're off the hook for now, and they go to somebody else. So it's still, there's all of that stuff is still being worked out.
Yeah, this is one of those kind of Wild West genres of voiceover that I've noticed it's going on, especially when it comes to the rate structure.
Yes.
And it's interesting because audio description has its own, I'd almost say it's almost a unique rate structure as opposed to other genres, wouldn't you say?
You mean just like how it's all over the place. It truly is.
I'm not talking about the actual number. I'm talking about actually what the structure is. Yeah, the system. So tell me about the system.
It's different. Some companies will go by per finished minute of the show. And some companies will actually give you an hourly rate. So it really is there is not necessarily a set way to do it. It's just kind of whatever they have worked out on their own,
right,
in their own space.
And when you say finished minute, you don't mean finished minute of audio narration. You mean finished minute of the actual experience. So
Correct.
if it's a 2-hour movie, but it's only an hour of audio description because the rest is dialogue or something,
right.
You get paid for 2 hours of two finished hours, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Because that's a different distinction, everybody. Like, an audiobook, for example, gets paid by the finished hour, which is how many hours of narration that the listener of the audiobook actually listens to.
Right.
So, because you were mentioning that you narrated a certain 7 seasons of a certain TV show, and it's a very dialogue heavy show, but each episode was roughly 45 minutes because it was like for 1 hour of television programming, right? 45 minutes plus 15 minutes of commercials. So even though it was 45 minutes finished,
right. You're not
you got
doing
paid per minute
minutes, right,
of actual narration.
Correct. Whereas there are some others that are, I did another show and it was very, very, I did one this morning that was very word heavy for me. So and that's probably one reason that they do it that way, is because it just depends on the show and how it's written on, how it would probably be harder for the production companies to try to figure out how it is, per minute, because you're not necessarily recording and sending them a WAV file, which is also kind of the Wild West. I have one company that I have one company, as you get one company where you're sending a WAV file, and you have another company where you might be working directly into their proprietary software. So
right, they're not the first company to do that, because there are other companies that send you certain software, so you're not recording into Adobe Audition or Pro Tools. You are logging onto their website, hooking it up to your audio, and you're just talking into like their website, basically.
Kind of like how we do like a Source Connect situation,
Yeah, it is actually pretty similar to that.
How we do, how we do a lot of radio or television.
Right. So it's funny because it's kind of like the cousin. It's like the first cousin of this genre and the second cousin of that genre. When I try to explain what explainer videos are, and I say like it's a cousin between e-learning and commercial advertising, because you're explaining something, but you're not exactly teaching someone how to do something like an e-learning module, and you're selling something, and there's always a call to action at the end of an explainer video, but it's not the same format as a commercial, because explainer videos are often a minute, like a minute and a half, 2 minutes, which is too long for a commercial. So audio description has its own like little space that it's still trying to grow into, fit into, but people are still trying to work it out, and the rates vary wildly too. And it's union, and there is a union, there is a SAG-AFTRA contract for it.
There's only one house that I know of that's using it.
Right.
The majority of audio description is non-union.
Right. And who knows what'll happen with that. Maybe SAG-AFTRA eventually will put together an agreement to cover that. Though I wonder if the co-ed Cat 1 or co-ed Cat 2, it could fall under that, but I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Well, these are all questions. But anyway,
I'm not union, so I don't know.
Me neither. But speaking of questions, enough about us babbling on. Well, we weren't babbling on. We were kind of just like setting the stage, because a lot of people are curious about the world of audio description. But
and I'm going to be taking my glasses on and off because there's such a glare. I don't know. Is there a glare for you? It's like this ridiculous glare for me.
It's like you got more on your left eye than your right eye. But if you're looking down a little bit, it's fine. But it depends. What weird. There you go. Yeah, just stay like that the whole time. That's perfect. Yeah, don't move. Don't move. Stay right there.
Oh my God.
Okay. Oh, no.
I'm just gonna take them on if I'm reading a question.
That's perfect. That's perfectly fine. I'm just used to having them on all the time, so I don't really bother. And these are my computer voiceover. I have my computer voiceover glasses over here, and then these are my like real life walking around glasses. But I have to be like this because they're trifocals, so I can actually see the thing.
But yours don't have a glare, so I don't know.
They don't have a glare?
Not the ones you were wearing before, like these. No,
these are
those are more, but I don't know. Are those ones you had on before?
Well, I've got an overhead light, so maybe that has something to do with it.
I think it's off the computer.
And you'd be amazed how little people care about what we're talking about right now.
I know, right? That's
but
true.
This is the life. This is the life of voice actors, like glasses and glare and all that nonsense. I have 3 pairs of glasses. I have the pair I'm wearing now to sit at my computer. I have the pair that I just took off for driving, and then I've got another pair that's actually in the booth for that distance, because it's like this is 1.5 feet, like this is 2.5 feet, that's 1.5 feet, and then whatever. Anyway, so we welcome all of your audio description questions. You're free to ask whatever you'd like. And also you're welcome to ask any non-audio description questions if you want to ask about agents or pay-to-plays or other genres of voiceover or marketing or tech stuff. We have limited knowledge of tech stuff, but we've been using tech for 20 plus years. So we welcome your questions. We're both talking into a Sennheiser 416, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah,
you are correct.
Which our good friend Sean helped position just so, and you refuse to move it a millimeter. So you're correct. Right. You got that perfect field. So anyway, so folks, if you've got any audio description or other voiceover related question, please type your questions into the chat right here, and we will answer them to the best of our ability. Give me a chance to sip my water. I noticed Tivia wrote what non-union, or she's like, what non-union, or is it like what non-union? I'm not sure what Tivia meant by that. She's welcome to answer. She's welcome to type it. Laura. Oh, hi, Laura. I know Laura. Is training only through American Council of the Blind, or are there options? Actually, we were just talking about that this morning.
There are very few people who are training audio description. There are 1 or 2 coaches available. I know a big part of it would be you can never listen to it enough. First of all, second of all, my good friend, I don't know, can I say who it is, Tom? Like, I don't know how that works.
You could totally recommend him, because I'm not an audio description coach, neither are you. So it's not like you'd be, no, please.
Okay, I wasn't sure how that worked. So Roy Samuelson is someone that is an audio description narrator, and he also does training. So he's great at that, and that's someone that you could certainly look up. And then really the biggest way is to listen and to practice. Other than that, there is a little bit of a learning curve and understanding of how to narrate audio description without stealing focus. And so you kind of have to be a little bit like under. You want to make sure that it's
voice under, not voice over.
Yes, it's voice under. There's this kind of line that you're straddling, that you want to be able to be a part but not be a part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely, you can look up Roy Samuelson. I'm happy to talk to people more, just a little bit on how to navigate that process if anyone's interested.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, Andrew said, how does someone who wants to move into audio description take steps in that direction? And we've already started to answer that question. Is, well, regardless of whatever genre of voiceover that you want to do, you need training. And I'm gonna preach here for a second, Kelly. When it comes to working with if you're interested in exploring any new genre, you need a professional voiceover coach. Now, I'm the voice VO strategist, business and marketing consultant, and never ask an encyclopedia salesman if you need an encyclopedia. So as someone who is a coach, a form of coach in the voiceover industry, I'd say, of course you need a coach, but it's for a very specific reason, Andrew. When you are learning any new genre, there's 3 things. And the first one is the one that you would makes the most sense. It was genre proficiency. How do you become proficient in this genre? How do you narrate a 15-second commercial as opposed to a 90-second explainer video, as opposed to a 15-minute e-learning module, as opposed to a 10-hour audiobook? and all of the subgenres of each of those genres. There's a lot of very specific technique that is required to narrate a commercial, an audio description, e-learning module, explainer, cartoon, video game. And there are professional voiceover coaches who can teach you on a performance level, a genre awareness and proficiency level, how to do one genre versus another one. Most voice actors who are early in their journey thinks that that's the beginning and the end of it with working with a coach, but that's not, that there's a lot more to it. The second thing is what I call ism detection. Okay. Every voice actor, every person has their own isms. Does Kelly talk too fast? Does Tom talk too slow? Does Andrew do a lot of upward inflections? Does Tevye do a lot of downward inflections? Do you have a regionalism or an accent? All of these things are isms. Are they bad habits that get in your way of good storytelling? And if they are, do you need to reduce or eliminate them? You don't hear yourself objectively. You can't hear yourself objectively. You need a professional voiceover coach who has professionally trained ears to hear your sibilance or your tendency to upward or downward inflect and tell you whether you need to eliminate it, whether you need to learn how to toggle it. You know, like, for example, if you grew up in South Boston and you've got a Southie accent, you know, can you turn that off so you can do that Midwestern, you know, at our bank, we do this. And then you're, all right, was take one good? Was that all right? You know, all right, let's do take two. And then you go in and do take two back at our, you know, at our bank, you know, and go back, you know. So can you turn on that accent like a switch? Or can you use your isms to enhance your performance? So, for example, if you're an audiobook narrator and you talk too fast, you need to slow down because people need to understand what you're saying and keep up with you. If you're a cartoon narrator, having one of your stock characters be a character that talks really, really fast because they're very, very nervous or very, very hyper. Maybe they're a rabbit or maybe they're a turtle and they were raised by rabbits, you know, that sort of thing. Okay, that's perfect for that genre. So ism detection and being able to modulate and turn on the dials and levers and pulleys and switches to be able to modulate your performance. The third reason is the art and science of self-direction. When Kelly and I started, we were going to recording studios all the time. You were going to Philly and I was going to New York City based on where we live, right? Mm-hmm. And then there's this been growing, and even before COVID, there was this growing trend leading towards home recording. So before COVID hit, I was recording about 2/3 of the time at home and 1/3 of the time here at studios in New York City. And then when COVID hit, then I was recording 100% of the time at home.
Well, and I would say from where my location is, by the time before COVID hit, I was doing almost 100, like 99.99%. It was at home.
Right. And occasionally going into Philly for like a big production studio for a major commercial or something like that. Right.
Exactly.
So the majority of voice actors who are entering the voiceover industry now will probably never see the inside of a professional recording studio. And that's not a bad thing. Technology has just evolved. You can record at home. But what that means is when it comes to auditioning and booking, you're on your own. You need to learn how to direct yourself for an audition and direct yourself in a recording session a lot. I mean, yes, I have directed sessions on Zoom and Source Connect, but the vast majority of the work that I do, I just got to figure it out. So a professional voiceover coach will teach you the art and science of self-direction. Most importantly, how to break down a script. Mm-hmm. Why was this line written this way to achieve a desired effect, whether it's complying with the law or complying or, targeting a certain demographic or realizing your brand or all of that stuff. So this is extremely, extremely important stuff. So, you honestly can't effectively self-train in any genre of voiceover because there are people out there that are more talented than you, with more money than you, that are getting better training than you. What are you going to do about it? You need to figure out a way to get good training because I truly believe there's no competition in the voiceover industry. There's plenty of work for everybody who knows what they're doing. But the way to know what you're doing is to get trained by a professional voiceover coach.
Well, and I think to add on to that, especially in audio description, I spent almost 2 years training before I even approached one person. And I think that while that took a long time, I felt like I was really prepared, and that I could present myself well, because these are not like the people that you're going against. They're not just going to be people that suddenly just decided, oh, I'm a voice actor. I mean, Tom's been training. I mean, Tom, like you can speak to that even yourself.
Sure.
And that audio description is not something that you can just be a voice actor and then say, oh, I'm going to do audio description. There are definitely nuances to it, and that you should really spend time, training with Roy. Listening to it is so important. There's so many different opportunities for you to listen to it. But I really did. I spent almost 2 full years training, listening, learning, understanding the market before I jumped in, because that's what they want. They want somebody that knows what they're doing. They want somebody that they're not going to hold their hand. You're not walking into, you're walking into companies that are dealing with shows that are going on Netflix, HBO Max, Sony. You're walking into things that are going straight to theaters with movies. They don't have the time to babysit you. So they don't have the time to walk you through things you don't know, because you haven't bothered to take the time to learn them. Mm-hmm. So I do think it's really important to understand that, that just because you decided that you want to do audio description, that please make sure you know what you're doing, so that you represent yourself in a good light, and that you don't look like somebody that has no idea what they're doing.
I have a question.
Yes, Tom.
How important is a loaded question? How important is understanding the role of the audio description writer in your narration?
I think it's really important. I mean, I think that, these are the people. We are just reading the words that the audio description writer has given us. We're getting scripts. And so I do think that you need to understand what they're doing and what they're looking at and how they're interpreting scripts, so that you're working with them and not against them. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. Absolutely. Because we both put together, did you work with an audio description writer when you put together those initial samples?
I did.
You did.
I've worked with, I have from the beginning. Yes.
Right. And the process was fascinating, right? Yeah. And just as an aside for everybody, that audio description writers are in seriously high demand.
Yeah.
Very high demand.
Yeah, they are.
Because anytime, I mean, I can't speak fully for Kelly, but I know that every time when I've been marketing myself as an audio description narrator, one thing they ask is, can you write too? We desperately need writers. They're always looking for them, right?
Yeah, it does seem to be. Mm-hmm.
And it's just going to be, the demand's just going to get greater and greater, because more and more companies, I'm assuming the federal compliance is going to go up, but then also companies are just wanting to do the right thing.
I think so. I do. I agree with you. I think that there are companies out there that have just made that decision of that, accessibility is important to them. And so they're just doing it without being told that they have to do it.
Right. And I'm sure there's some companies that are doing it because they have to, but I'd like to think there's a fair amount that are doing because they want to. Right. I mean, they're, a person who's visually impaired has as much right to mm-hmm. enjoy any medium as any sighted person.
Exactly.
And
right. And it's not just television. And like we said, it's, museums seem to be, really doing it as well. I can't mm-hmm. think of what's the
plays and operas,
like the Smithsonian, mm-hmm. There's, Broadway has mm-hmm. audio describers. I mean, it's not just, television and film.
Not just what's on our Amazon Fire Sticks or our Rokus.
Exactly.
Tivia said, I was astonished that AD isn't union like audiobook narrating. Well, it's a relatively, like I said, the genre itself in general isn't new, but it's just become a lot more
prevalent.
We've become a lot more it's become a lot more prevalent in the voiceover industry. So I think SAG-AFTRA just wasn't really aware of it as a genre. I mean,
there is a contract. Sure. Like I said, there is a contract with one house, but that's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Laura also asks, is there a lot of editing of scripts involved? I believe I heard that somewhere. So do you find
not for us as the narrators? That would be the editing of a script. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that, but no, I mean, we as the narrators get finished scripts.
Yeah, I think what Laura's referring to is when it's time to actually narrate it, you're finding that the timing isn't quite lining, the timing of what you're narrating isn't quite lining up with the video. But it's my understanding that the writers work extremely hard to make sure that they're timing it to the, I don't know about millisecond, but they're timing it very, very tight, because there's a lot of cutoffs of cutting of scenes and stuff, because because the viewer has to be aware of, you're not in the house anymore. Now you're in the car. And sometimes it's just like that. There's no transition. You're just there.
Yeah. I don't really ever edit. I mean, if I'm editing a script, which I would never call it editing, but it might be that, there might be just a word is spelled wrong, or, you know what I mean? Like, that, like today, for example, I had to say the word poet. And at one point it came up as pout, but I knew it was poet, but it was just obviously a misspelling,
right?
When somebody was typing it in. But as far as doing anything to the scripts, that's nothing I do. That's not my job. That's totally the writers. They do all of that. So, and there are audio description writers, and then there's audio description narrators. So.
Right. And when you have the clients where you're narrating directly into the company's software, it's being queued up like an ADR or a dubbing session, right?
Yeah.
Right. So it's already been pre-timed. They've already put all that data into so when it's time to say this, that it's because the writer and the editor and everything it's already been synced up.
Even if you're not doing it into somebody's proprietary software, you're still then working off of like time code. So everything is timed for you. Like, you're given kind of like a specific amount of time that you have to say things, and they have done all of that timing already for you. So you need to be able to, that's probably another thing that for audio description, or I guess even for commercial work or whatever, that you need to be able to say things sometimes really fast, but make them sound slow, kind of like when you're doing a 15-second or a 30-second spot and they've written 40 seconds of copy. You still have to try to get it all in there, but make it sound like that you aren't rushing.
Right. Which is interesting, because we were talking about parallels or differences between audio description and audio books, I think yesterday or the day before. And the thing about audiobooks is that audiobooks are not time sensitive.
Right.
At all. You're describing scenes and people and action like as you would in an audio description script, but the timing of it's so rigid. It's so rigid. It's as rigid. Right. It's for audio description, the timing is as rigid as it is. It's even more rigid than commercials in its own way. Because 15-second commercial, if it's 150 words roughly for 1 minute of audio, so that'd be 75 for the 30-second spot. So it would be 37 and a half. You get 37 and a half words that you can get in at most. And that's not including sound effects or other people's tags or dialogue or music or intro, outro, fade in, fade out, whatever, but with AD, it is timed hardcore. And there is once that's locked in, that's not changing.
Right. Because you're working, especially if you're doing entertainment. Like movies or film or whatever, you're working in between dialogue. So you can't, they're not going to, we know with commercial work that they can, cut out a breath here, whatever there, that type of thing.
They can stretch and squeeze stuff.
Right. But
and they
here
do it all the time.
You're working with dialogue that's already finished, so that you don't have the ability to go like, oh, we can just push that dialogue this way or whatever. It's not right. That's not how it works.
Yeah, because often we go into a recording studio or recording from home, and we do the narration first, and then it gets dropped into the video, which is often storyboarded, or sometimes they've got it set up, but they know that they've got time to squeeze, to stretch this or squeeze that. But with this, there is zero wiggle room, because it's funny, because I have a lot of European clients, and they'll make this explainer video in Austria, So it's already been made. It's been produced in Austria. And for some reason, they're not allowed to change the time code of the video. The video is the length that it is, which means when it's, and they're like, okay, we would like to do an English version of this Austrian explainer video. There's, I've got only so many seconds to say this stuff, but often there's latitude when it comes to the words. Sometimes they can add some words or take away some words because, a person who speaks Spanish or Japanese or Portuguese or whatever, it's going to be faster or slower than saying the same words in a different language. So we have that, there's a little bit of wiggle room, but with AD, there is not that wiggle room at all. So that's its own specific skill set, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I do. And I noticed that Andrew mentioned Joel Snyder. Yes, Joel Snyder does have a writing course. There's another group. I can't think of it right now. I think it's like the AD retreat or something that they do. They do a writing course as well. So either one of those, Joel's is fairly long. Joel's is like a Monday through Friday for like 4 or 5 hours a day. And then the other group, theirs is over a weekend. And they kind of help with letting people figure out how to become an AD writer.
Cool. Very cool. Oh yeah, you're Joel Snyder. Cool. Any other audio description questions or comments, or I heard a rumor, or is this true? Things that we can either verify or debunk about the audio description industry. And if there is not, you are all welcome to ask other non-audio description related questions. Like I said, about marketing, pay to plays, working from home.
One thing I see Tivia wrote, what is the best DIY ways of training yourself as an audio describer?
Yes.
One thing, like I said, I think that it's really important, just like when you're starting out in any kind of job or whatever, again, is to listen. There's a lot of audio description out there, especially on the streaming channels. So I think that, if you're at all thinking about this is something you want to attack, then I listen. I can't tell you. I mean, Tom, I would listen literally for hours a day.
Yeah.
Like that would be part of my job, is that I would go like, okay, 3 or 4 hours today, I'm going to sit and listen to audio description and find things I liked, find things I didn't like, that kind of stuff. So it's definitely, if you're saying like, what can I do on my own? That is definitely something you can do on your own.
On a performance level, did you notice big differences in styles of audio description from genre to genre? Comedy, drama, action, thriller?
Not so much genre from genre, but just different people have different styles. And there's some different types of delivery, and you have to really like go with your type, and you have to really work with what you best sound like and how your sound works. There are some that are very monotone, and that the type of delivery is very straightforward, and there's others that's a little bit like more lilting, and really that just is going to be based off your probably your personal preference, but also like how you typically deliver something anyway.
How much do you think that's influenced by the because you never get directed on you never get directed in audio description, do you? Well, there's at least one company that there's at least one company for sure that directs all of their audio description. Oh, okay. Is it the same one that we've talked about that I've done the dubbing for over the years? Okay. Yes. And that's
they direct every single thing they do. So that they don't so you have that direction, just like a dubbing director. I mean, so they sit in on that, and you will go through with that completely. And then there are others that might tell you, like, kind of give you an idea. And then a lot of times, I think anyway, you're kind of cast based on your style too. Not only your sound and what they think you can do, because that's, there's all these different kinds of parameters for getting cast, just like in anything else.
Sure.
But I think what they tend to do is they listen to your tone, they listen to your style, and then they decide what genre do they best see you in. And then that's what they'll throw at you, based on knowing that that's what you're going to bring to the table.
Right. And the company that we were just referring to, they much prefer in-person narrators to their studio, as opposed to using ones that have proprietary software that you record into, or they send you a script with the time code. So if they want you to come to the studio, the odds are probably they're more inclined to want to direct the actors
Absolutely.
anyway. And also the software that they use is the kind that doesn't really line up. It's you go into the booth and you've got the big TV screen and you've got the beep, 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 or you've got the scrolling text on the screen, which, and there's like a marker, or sometimes the word that you're supposed to say is turning yellow or a different color or something like that. So so it's relatively varied. So
it's very subjective, just like the rest of our businesses.
Absolutely. And directors and producers and production companies have their own styles and preferences. I'm sure if you're able to break down AD based on the production company, you're probably going to start to see patterns in the style delivery that they prefer, not necessarily the genre, but the style that company likes to do, Laura also asks, is there anyone we should listen to as a standard best? Not to say and one talent over another is subjective, but still is there a rock star in the industry? So who are your AD fan? Who are you an AD fan of besides yourself?
Oh yeah, just me. No, I'm kidding. Just me. That's it.
Nice. So modest.
Yeah, no, I'm totally joking, as you know.
I know.
I mean, it is hard because there are some who you think is a rock star, and I know this might sound like a cop-out answer. It's not. Who you think is a rock star is really going to be based on your preference, and you'll start to hear that. So I wouldn't say, and you're not going to be able to go like, oh, can I go hear one person? It's not like you can necessarily find what someone's doing. So even if I would say, go listen to Roy Samuelson, you're not going to be able to just go, oh, I want to go to Netflix and look up Roy Samuelson and find him. So that is not an easy way to necessarily do it. Really, the easiest way for you to do it is to go whatever your choice of streaming is, find a show you would like and see if it has audio description, and then start from there. Oh, Laura, you're hysterical, but yeah, just totally me. No, I'm totally kidding. But I do think that it really is based on, I can tell you, there's this man, I believe he's actually passed. I was doing some research and I fell upon this one show. And of course I can't think of what it is, but I fell in love with him. I was like, I want to listen to every single thing this man audio describes. And and he was amazing. And so that's what I mean. Like, there might be some people though that listen to his style and they don't like it. I know that's just kind of one of those things, but it is easier for you as a listener to just go find shows, see if they have the audio description, and see if you like it, and listen to different genres. Just because it's not like, we're not necessarily in the credits. Not every show that I voice had, like, for example, I did one this morning. Well, the audio description writer, production company, and narrator, we're not credited. Like, we don't say what we're doing at the end. There are other shows where I'm about to sneeze. Oh my gosh. If I sneeze, I'm sorry.
Well, it's okay.
There are other shows that I do my name is credited at the end of everything. There was one show that I did that they actually, because it was an original and it was animated, they actually put audio description narrator written in the credits. So not only was I saying it, but I was there. So I think that would be so I'm trying not to cop out on an answer. I'm just saying it's so incredibly subjective.
Right. To add on to that, the style of audio description that you may enjoy listening to as someone who is listening to it, that may not be the style of audio description that you may be best at, the narration style for you narrating it, because you may like an audio describer who has a very understated performance that's just kind of running parallel to what you're seeing. And then there's others who are a little more, not stylized, more invested, that's more enhancing this experience. That sounds like they're more involved in the car chase or the argument at the kitchen table, right? And you may enjoy that because it complements the what you're seeing more. but who's to say that that is your style of narration is better? So what you enjoy listening to may not be what you may be best at narrating. So I think it's important.
You might not be cast for that.
Right. So I think it's important to parse those two things, because I know what I like to watch on TV, but what I like to watch on TV or in the movies may not necessarily be the same things I want to narrate.
Right. Well, and to your point too, it might not be what other people hear you. Because I remember one of my the one that I just won like the Voice Arts Award thing for, I would have never put myself as recording that show, Westworld. Yeah. Like when they first came at me with Westworld, I was like, first of all, I didn't even know what Westworld was. But second of all, once I got into it, I was shocked that that was where this particular production company heard my voice.
It's interesting because traditionally you have a very young, energetic sound because you've done toys and games and, animated stuff where you've done character voices as younger, kookier, more energetic. For those of you who haven't seen Westworld, this is a very serious, very adult, hyper violent, often sci-fi weird thing that's going on where the machines are taking over. And honestly, Kelly, I mean, I think you're a fabulous, talented narrator. It wouldn't have occurred to me to pair you with that particular show either. And you won an award narrating it.
Yeah.
So isn't that interesting?
No, and that is, I mean, and I can remember when I remember I was with you, if you remember, when I booked Peacemaker.
Yes.
And I had no idea what Peacemaker was.
And I'm like, you don't know what Peacemaker is? Oh my God. I'm a huge comic book fan. So
again, another show that I would have never put my voice on.
Right. Because it's another hyper violent, highly stylized show with, very larger than, superheroes are literally larger than life characters, which actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I mean, in sci-fi too, but again, it's just like, I wouldn't occur to me to cast you with that too, but clearly the producers of Peacemaker and Westworld to make the AD, clearly they know what they're doing.
Yeah. And then on the flip side, I have done what you and I would have considered where I would have started. Now that I've, been doing it for a while, but those were kind of like two of my first big titles, in theory. And then, but I have done now the animated, the Disney Plus, those types of things. So it was just an interesting start for me, which is a really great example of don't pigeonhole ourselves.
Don't disqualify yourself.
Right.
Don't precast yourself.
I have to say now I love doing that genre. That I just like, I'm again referencing, but the thing I did today is a little bit more along those lines of a genre. And I have found that I do love doing that as much as I enjoy doing the more, family friendly titles as well. Where in the beginning I was like, well, I'm only really going to be right for the family friendly ones. And that's my sound and blah, 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 blah. But no, I love the fact that I do get these other projects too.
Like like the Jeff Goldblum show.
Exactly. Right.
Another one, it wouldn't have been like, I wouldn't have occurred to me to pair you up with that one. So. Right. And as you know, Kelly, I've had a very similar experience getting into political voiceover.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I thought, I don't sound right for political. I sound too young because I always thought like, this candidate is going to eat your children. Don't vote for them. They are the devil. That's what I always thought. And then, but things change. And, I got a little bit of training. I got a demo and I booked some political work last year, mostly being me. Not trying to put on airs, because if they wanted a grown-up, they'd hire a grown-up.
Right, exactly.
I don't sound like a grown-up.
No.
I sound like an adult, but I don't sound like, this guy. That's just not me unless I'm playing a character, doing a caricature of something.
Well, and again, to the point of we don't typecast ourselves because we don't know what the sound they're looking for or what we think we sound a certain way. And while we might, because a lot of people have told us that, there are different people that are trying to bring a different nuance or whatever that, again, you and I have talked about the political realm too. And both of us going like, oh, we can fit in there.
We can fit in there. There is a lane for people who sound like Callie and I, who aren't your, this, or, having this dramatic
I can't even do it, so I can't even help you.
I can only make fun of myself doing it. You know what I mean? So I can't even do it seriously because I just sound like a 19-year-old trying to get served at the bar. You know what I mean? It's like, really, Toms? You know, so yeah. So yeah, don't precast, don't disqualify yourself. I mean, your job is to listen to the industry, and the industry's job is to listen to you.
And figure out where you fit.
And figure out where you fit. And you can fit in more than one place because both of us do a lot of genres of voiceover, some of which we would have never imagined that we would be doing. I mean, I would have never thought I would be doing political campaign spots. I never would have thought that. And here I am booking them. So
right.
Cool. All right. Okay. Par 513 asks, how does quoting an AD job work?
It doesn't. You don't quote. You don't quote them. They will.
They have their own. They have their own rates.
They have their own rates, and either you're going to accept them or you're not. Is really what it comes down to. In my experience, I have never been asked to quote a job. It's just like, here's what we have, and does that, not even really does that work for you? I mean, they'll say, but
this is our rate. Take it or leave it.
This is our rate. Yeah. So there is no quoting. At least in my experience, there has been no quoting. It's just like, here's what we pay and here's how we pay, and either you take it or you don't. Right.
Because even a Royal Samuelson, who's one of the higher end
same thing
audio describers, he just goes along with whatever the rate structure of that production company is. Yeah. So, and like we said, it's a pay per minute generally. Generally, yeah, there are some exceptions.
Yeah, there's others that do, like I said, they'll do kind of like a pay per hour situation.
What are you talking about? A studio hour or
no studio hour.
You narrate as much as you can in that time, and then they give you the studio rate.
Yeah. So it's a studio rate. So so there is no quoting.
Okay, cool. Any other? Oh, we still have a few minutes left. Any other audio description questions before we wrap up? And any other overall voiceover industry questions? We are at your disposal for the next few minutes to answer your voiceover related questions. Yes, no, maybe,
or not.
Someone may be furiously typing, so we'll just give them a give them a moment. But I'm gonna type in your website. You're Kelly. It's just kellybrennanvo.com. What is it these days?
Do you just want me to type it in?
Why don't you type it in?
Okay, I'll type
it's not like I've seen it a million times. I just can't remember off the top of my head.
Oh, look what it did. That's weird. Do you see what it did? It like made the orange. Do you see that? Is it just on mine? Like on the YouTube thing. Is that weird?
I don't know. Well, you typed it in the YouTube area, right?
Yeah, but it made it orange. Like it put an orange box around it. Did it not?
Oh, well, I have a yellow box around my name.
Oh, why is it doing that?
I don't. Well, I think it's just because I'm the host. So
and I'm just tagging along.
Yeah. You're more than tagging along. You've shared a lot of amazing information. Oh, you're saying, so I just typed in tomdeer.com, but it put the Tom Deere in orange. That's very interesting.
Oh, you know what though? I can tell you that it's not, it is not like showing here. It's just showing normal. It doesn't have the orange box. Yeah,
here's a question from Tivia. She wants to know how do you get into voice acting for toys and games?
Okay. So again, kind of the same way. There are some people that do some training for that as well. As far as how did I get into it, like finding places.
What was your journey generally?
I went to Target and I looked up I went to Target and I literally would look up like every toy that spoke and found the company that was producing them. And then I would use Google and LinkedIn as my friends. And I would find out like, okay, these are the companies that are doing the kinds of things I want to do. And then you research like mad. So that's kind of how I did it. But yeah, I would go to Hallmark. I would go to like wherever I could find, but Target was a big one because they're close by to me. So I would go in, spend a day in the toy aisle, picking up things, literally like speaking into my phone or writing it down on who the production, or not who the production companies are, but who the companies are that are producing those types of things. And then coming home, Googling, looking for people that work there, and then just kind of process of elimination. Tom,
yes.
You're saying that mine isn't showing up.
I don't see yours in there either, frankly. Were you typing in the YouTube live chat?
Yeah, I was.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Mine's in between, like right after par 513 said thank you, and yours says tomdeer.com.
I don't see it either. Very
There's
strange. Well, here, tell me what your website address is.
KellyBrennan'sVoice.com.
Oh, right. Kelly Brennan's voice.com. KellyBrennan'svoice.com.
Yeah.
Cool. There you go. I encourage you to check that out. Any other questions, anything that anybody wants to share? Laura says, thank you both so much. I've worked within the visually impaired community since 2003, and doing AD just speaks to me. No pun intended. It just speaks to you. I see what you did there, Laura. You're such a card. Well
Yeah,
said.
Laura, then my suggestion, like I said, I really think that what you don't want to do, I will tell you that breaking into audio description is very difficult. It's not something that like it took me to break into like the first company that I worked with, I think almost 10, 11 months to just even to get them. And Tom can speak to this too, because he's been kind of doing the same thing. 10 to 11 months to even get their attention. And then even after that was like another 6 to 8 months before I even did my first job. So this is not a short run situation. Like, sometimes, and I'm not saying somebody can't break in sooner. But I'm just saying, like, if have patience and really know your stuff, because what they don't want to work with is somebody that doesn't understand the language and and doesn't understand the sound and doesn't that has never even seen an audio described show or movie. So, and that's why I push it. They don't want you to come and be like, I want to do audio description, and then realize that you've never even saw a show.
Right.
So don't insult them, because it is, visually impaired people, like low vision and blind audiences. And you need to respect the fact that that's what you're doing, that you're working as someone to allow them to see what they can't. And don't insult them by making it any less than it is. Sorry if that sounds harsh.
No, it's again, like I said at the beginning, the visually impaired, the low and no sighted have every right to enjoy content. And remember, other senses are other enhanced. They have to depend on this. And so they are relying on you to give them to provide the experience they need to get the same fulfillment, enjoyment out of TV shows, plays, museums, operas as any sighted person. And we, as narrators, especially sighted narrators, we need to honor that. We need to respect that. We need to take that very, very seriously. And also, us voice actors are a very selfish, narcissistic lot. We are trying to get money to give us, trying to get people to give us money so we can hear the sound of our own voice, because we think we are so awesome, right? We're just a bunch of selfish bastards.
I did not get into this to be selfish.
I was pre-selfish, so I already came in selfish. So I was already.
The audio description.
I was already halfway there. But my point is that when you are, voice actors are storytellers, and when you tell a story, it's not about you, it's about the story, and it's about the audience, and it's about connecting. It's all about connecting. Johnny Heller, our good friend and, award-winning audiobook narrator, it's all about seeking the author's truth. And if you focus on seeking the author's truth, regardless of the genre that you are narrating, you are empowering yourself to connect with the audience, and you're empowering the audience to connect with the story. And it's not about you,
Right. One thing in audio description too, listening to like what you said, Tom, is that you also have to remember that while we're we're working in a space of accessibility, no one in the low vision and blind audiences, no one that has low vision or is blind, nobody wants you to feel sorry for them. This isn't a space where we're like, oh, we're assisting, we're helping. That's not, while what we're doing is a tool, and it's an avenue, a bridge for them to, get a better picture of what it is that they're listening to, it's almost insulting to them to be like, oh, I'm helping. Like, that's not what we're doing. We're just providing an avenue to have a larger, a larger understanding of what it is that they're seeing. And it's a way for them to be included more. So like if you're going to the movie theater with 4 people and one is low vision or blind and the other 3 are sighted, and let's just say you're watching a part and there's a big, I don't know, crash scene or something that you're going like 30 seconds without sound, everybody gets in the car and it just so happens that the people are talking about that part. Well, if you're the low vision or blind person and there was no audio description, you have no idea what they're talking about. So think of yourself more as a tool and not as a helper, because that's not something, they don't need help. Like people with low vision and blind audience, they're not looking at themselves as that they need help. They're just looking for, a better understanding of what people are seeing. So I don't really know why I got off on that tangent, but something that you said made me just say like, please understand. And that's what I'm saying, like, understand your audience and understand what you are, and that you're not, that you are a tool that they can utilize, but never make it about them in like a condescending way. And I know that nobody does that on purpose, but there are ways to almost project your voice in such a way that you're like, oh, I'm helping. And we're not. We're a tool that they've chosen to use because they don't have to use us. Like you can turn audio description on and off. People don't have to use it. But I think that that's really important, is that we're not insulting our audience in the way that we're presenting this information either.
We're guiding.
Yeah. Just providing information. Providing information from my style. Everybody's is different. My style is providing information in a way that is true to the writer, true to the actors, true to the director. I tend to use music a lot to help the way that I am, the way that I am describing. I mean, narrating as well. So figure out how that works for you. Hope that was okay.
That was perfect. That's a perfect way to end it, because we're out of time. So that's a perfect way to end this. Kelly, thank you so much. This was great.
For having me.
It was a pleasure to have you and to help share the world of audio description with myself and with all of these fabulous viewers. Viewers, thank you very much for your questions. Feel free to reach out to any of us. Please, and we encourage you to like this video, post your comments, and this was fantastic. So we're going to wrap up this edition of the VO Strategist Ask Me Anything YouTube live video. Please like this video. Please subscribe. Follow both of us on Instagram and LinkedIn. And you are all welcome to book a free 15-minute consult with me so we can chat about audio description or any other area of the voiceover industry. So thank you very much for tuning in. Stay cool, stay safe, and happy voicing. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Okay, we're done.